They told us ancient Greece was the birthplace of knowledge, of philosophy, of order and reason. But what if that's only half the truth? What if buried beneath its ruins are stories of entire cities swallowed by the sea? Machines built thousands of years before their time. For centuries, scholars have tried to make sense of these mysteries, and failed. Tonight, we journey deep into the forgotten corners of ancient Greece. Let's begin. The lost city of Helike, Greece's Atlantis. Imagine a bustling city nearly 2,500 years ago, a jewel of ancient Greece, standing proud on the coast of the Gulf of Corinth. Ships came and went from its harbors, markets overflowed with goods, temples echoed with prayers to Poseidon, and its people believed their city would last forever. But then, one night, Helike vanished, swallowed not by time, but by the earth and the sea itself. The story of Helike is one of the greatest forgotten disasters of the ancient world, a real-life tragedy eerily similar to the legend of Atlantis. Ancient records describe how, on a winter night in 373 BCE, the ground beneath Helike shook violently. Witnesses spoke of strange tremors and a deafening roar, followed by a surge of black water rising from the sea. Within moments, the city was gone. Its temples, its streets, its people, all erased, leaving nothing but a new lagoon where once life thrived. What makes Helike's story so mysterious is not just its sudden destruction, but what came after. Fishermen claimed that for centuries, on calm days, the tops of Helike's buildings could still be seen shimmering beneath the waves. Some said the statues of Poseidon still stood upright on the seafloor, staring toward the heavens, as if frozen in time. Ancient travelers swore they could hear strange sounds beneath the water, like whispers of a city trying to speak from below. Was Helike's destruction truly natural, a violent earthquake and tsunami? Or was there something else at play? Ancient accounts tell of omens before the catastrophe. Strange lights in the sky, animals fleeing inland days before the quake, and priests claiming that Poseidon himself had grown angry with the city. Did the people of Helike witness a natural disaster, or something more divine, something they could not understand? Modern archaeologists have tried for decades to find the city's ruins, but even with today's technology, Helike remains elusive. Pieces have been uncovered, a few streets, some ancient artifacts, but the heart of the city, the grand temples, the supposed statues under the water, remain lost. And every time a storm churns the waters of the Gulf of Corinth, people still whisper that Helike stirs beneath the waves, a ghost city waiting to resurface. Was Helike simply another victim of Greece's volatile earth? Or could it be proof that legends like Atlantis are rooted in real events? Perhaps many myths of drowned civilizations are not myths at all, but warnings from a forgotten past. Next, the Phaistos disk, a code no one can read. In 1908, deep beneath the ruins of a Minoan palace on the island of Crete, archaeologists unearthed a strange object, a small, round disk of baked clay, no larger than a human hand. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary artifact from an ancient world long gone. But as they brushed away the dust of thousands of years, they realized they were staring at something extraordinary, something unlike anything found before or since. The disk was covered on both sides with mysterious symbols, pressed into the clay in a perfect spiral pattern. There were human-like figures, birds, flowers, tools, weapons, and dozens of other symbols no one could immediately recognize. But the strangest part? This was not carved like typical ancient writing, it was stamped. Each symbol had been pressed into the clay using pre-made stamps, almost like an early printing press thousands of years before printing was supposed to exist. No other artifact like the Phaistos disk has ever been found. It stands alone, isolated in history with no related texts, no translation key, and no clear purpose. Scholars have tried for more than a century to decode its 241 stamped symbols, but no one has succeeded. Was it a prayer? A hymn? A curse? A record of some long-lost language? Or was it something else entirely? A message left behind by a people far more advanced than we imagine? Even more chilling are the theories about where this mysterious disk came from. Some researchers believe it may have been carried to Crete by travelers from an unknown civilization that existed before the Minoans, a culture that disappeared without a trace. Others suggest it might not even be a writing system at all, but something mechanical, a type of code or ritual object whose function we have yet to understand. What truly unsettles historians is the uniqueness of the artifact. In archaeology, discoveries usually connect to other finds. More texts, more examples of the same script, variations of the language across different sites. But the Phaistos disc? It is one of a kind. A message from nowhere, written in a language that exists nowhere else, never repeated again in history. Some fringe theories go even further, suggesting the disc might not be of earthly origin at all, that the strange symbols and mechanical nature of its creation could point to knowledge handed down from visitors outside our world. While mainstream scholars dismiss this as speculation, they cannot explain why the disc stands alone in human history. Over 3,500 years have passed since it was created, and still no one can read it. No computer algorithm, no cryptographic expert, no ancient language specialist has broken its code. It sits in a museum in Heraklion today, locked in its clay silence, as if guarding a secret humans were never meant to understand. Could the Phaistos disc be the last surviving message from a forgotten civilization, or proof that human history is far stranger than we believe? Until the code is cracked, its meaning will remain one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of ancient Greece. Next, the Oracle of Delphi, a power beyond science. A path into the mountains. High in the rugged folds of Mount Parnassus, where clouds curl around jagged peaks and the air seems thinner, colder, sharper, lies one of the most sacred and mysterious places of the ancient world, the Oracle of Delphi. Imagine walking along a narrow path carved into the mountainside more than 2,000 years ago. The sound of your sandals crunching over stone is the only noise, aside from the distant rush of a mountain stream far below. The air smells of pine resin and burning incense drifting up from unseen fires. You are climbing toward the very heart of prophecy, toward a sanctuary where kings and conquerors, philosophers and warriors, common people and high priests once traveled for answers that no human mind should have known. Because Delphi was no ordinary temple. It was believed to be the center of the world, the navel of the earth, a place where mortal beings could touch the divine. And at its heart was the oracle Pythia, the chosen priestess who spoke in riddles, whispered truths, and delivered prophecies that changed the course of history itself. But what made this place so powerful? Why did the ancient Greeks believe the gods themselves spoke through a mortal woman? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, why, even today, do we not fully understand how the Oracle of Delphi knew what she knew? The temple and the woman of prophecy. Delphi wasn't just a temple. It was a sacred complex, a city of wonders built on layers of myth. According to legend, this was the place where Apollo, the god of light and prophecy, slew the great serpent Python and claimed the site as his own. Over centuries, a grand temple was built, columns rising toward the sky, its marble steps gleaming in the sun, its chambers heavy with the scent of offerings and sacred smoke. At its center was a simple, dark chamber, the Ataton, where Pythia, the oracle, would sit upon a tripod over a deep chasm in the rock. Pilgrims, sometimes after waiting months or even years, would enter this chamber seeking divine guidance. The process was strange and unsettling. Pythia would inhale mysterious vapors rising from cracks in the earth, her body swaying, her eyes rolling back, as if she were no longer herself. She would begin to mutter, whisper, or shout words that made no sense. Riddles, fragments of thought, phrases that seemed like madness. But priests standing nearby would listen, record, and shape these utterances into cryptic messages that were believed to come directly from Apollo himself. And yet, somehow, these prophecies were often eerily accurate. Kings were told whether to go to war or sue for peace. Entire cities made decisions based on the oracle's words. Even great philosophers like Socrates sought her wisdom. And in story after story, the predictions, though often shrouded in ambiguity, proved true. How could this be? Was Pythia truly channeling divine voices? Or was there something else happening in that dark chamber under the temple? Whispers from the earth. Modern science has tried to explain what happened at Delphi, but instead of solving the mystery, it has only deepened it. For centuries, scholars thought the oracle's visions were nothing but theatrics, a clever trick played by the priests to control the powerful and the fearful alike. But excavations in the 20th century revealed something far stranger. Geologists studying the site discovered that the Temple of Apollo had been built directly over two major fault lines. From these fractures in the earth, gases, specifically ethylene, could rise to the surface. Ethylene is a natural substance known to cause altered states of consciousness when inhaled. Trance-like visions, feelings of euphoria, even hallucinations. Could this explain Pythia's strange behavior? Could the god Apollo's divine breath have been nothing more than a geologic phenomenon? A gas seeping from the earth into the chamber below the temple, causing the oracle to enter altered states where her subconscious spoke truths that felt otherworldly? But even if the gases could explain how Pythia entered her trance, they do not explain how her predictions often came true. How could someone, even under a hallucinogenic influence, seemingly know the outcome of battles yet to be fought, the fate of kingdoms not yet decided, or the deaths of kings not yet written in time? Science can describe the state of the oracle's mind, but it cannot explain the source of her knowledge. Prophecies that changed the world. To understand why the Oracle of Delphi remains such a mystery, we must look at the power of her prophecies, moments where her words altered history. One of the most famous examples comes from the story of King Croesus of Lydia. He was a wealthy and powerful ruler, uncertain whether to wage war against the rising Persian Empire. Croesus sent emissaries to Delphi, asking if he should go to war. The oracle replied, "If you cross the river, you will destroy a great empire." Encouraged, Croesus marched to war, only to see his own empire destroyed, just as the oracle had said. Was this mere wordplay, a clever riddle that would seem true no matter the outcome? Or did the oracle truly foresee the fall of his kingdom? Another tale speaks of the oracle's warning to Athens before the Persian invasion. She advised them to put their faith in wooden walls. Many believed this meant fortifying their city walls with wood. But Themistocles, a cunning general, interpreted it as building a great fleet of wooden ships. Athens followed his interpretation, and their navy went on to defeat the Persians in the legendary Battle of Salamis, changing the course of history and saving Western civilization as we know it. These are just two examples among many. Time and again, the oracle's words were seen as divine truth, shaping politics, war, and religion for centuries. And while skeptics can argue that her predictions were vague enough to fit any outcome, the sheer number of instances where they aligned with future events continues to baffle historians. Portal between worlds? Ancient Greeks did not see Delphi as merely a temple. They believed it was built on a spot where the boundaries between the human world and the divine were thin, where the voice of the gods could reach mortal ears. They called it the Omphalos, the navel of the earth, a place where heaven and earth were connected. Some myths claim that the oracle's words came not from Apollo alone, but from forces older and more mysterious than the Olympian gods. The chasm beneath the temple was believed to be a fissure into the underworld, a place where hidden knowledge flowed upward from the realm of spirits and ancient powers. Could it be that the oracle was tapping into something beyond human comprehension? Something we might today call supernatural or even otherworldly. The ancient world was steeped in ritual, sacrifice, and belief in unseen forces. To them, Delphi was not an anomaly. It was proof that the gods walked among men, that the divine could speak, warn, and guide. Even today, visitors to Delphi report a strange energy lingering on the site. The ruins are silent now, the temple long gone, yet many claim the air feels charged, heavy with something unexplainable, as if whispers of prophecy still drift in the mountain winds, waiting for someone to listen. The mystery that survives. By the 4th century AD, the oracle's voice began to fade. Christianity rose, pagan temples fell, and Delphi became silent. The vapors no longer rose, or perhaps belief itself was the magic that kept them alive. The world moved on, but the mystery never left. Modern minds want rational answers. We want to believe the oracle's power came from geology, from intoxicating gases, from human intuition shaped by experience. And yet, deep down, we are drawn to the possibility that there was something more. Could it be that Delphi was built on a place where the fabric of reality is thinner, where glimpses of the future are possible, where minds can touch something beyond our understanding? Could the oracle have been less a priestess and more a vessel, channeling knowledge that comes from neither man nor earth, but something far stranger? No experiment can explain her accuracy. No history book can tell us how she knew what she knew. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. that over 2,000 years ago, high in the Greek mountains, there was a place where mortals spoke with gods, and the future was whispered in riddles through the lips of a single woman. Next, the Antikythera mechanism, ancient technology out of time. A shipwreck in the deep. The Aegean Sea is calm today, a vast expanse of glittering blue stretching endlessly toward the horizon. But beneath its serene surface lies a world of secrets, a world where time slows and human history sleeps, waiting to be rediscovered. It is here, off the tiny Greek island of Antikythera, that one of the greatest mysteries of ancient technology was born, not from myth or legend, but from the cold, silent embrace of a long-forgotten shipwreck. Imagine divers in the early 1900s, clad not in sleek wetsuits but in heavy, primitive diving gear, weighted boots scraping the seafloor as they descend into darkness. They expect to find treasure, perhaps gold coins or marble statues, spoils of an ancient vessel claimed by the sea centuries ago. And indeed, they do find statues, bronze and marble figures lying broken and encrusted with coral, objects that once adorned a grand vessel. But among the artifacts, one small lump of corroded bronze is pulled from the wreck. It is not beautiful. It is not a treasure anyone would fight over. It looks like nothing more than a rock, crusted and unremarkable. Yet inside this lump is a mechanism so advanced, so impossibly ahead of its time, that more than a century later, it continues to baffle scientists, historians, and engineers alike. This is the Antikythera mechanism, a device that should not exist, a fragment of ancient genius that feels as though it came from another age, or perhaps another world entirely. Clockwork that shouldn't be. The corroded mass sat forgotten for decades, locked away in storage. It was only when careful cleaning revealed fragments of gears, delicate, precise, intricate gears, that scholars began to realize they had uncovered something extraordinary. The Antikythera mechanism, once fully examined, was unlike anything else known from the ancient world. A complex arrangement of bronze gears, cogs, and dials, over 30 interlocking wheels, crafted with astonishing precision, built more than 2,000 years ago, at a time when the most advanced mechanical devices were simple water clocks and rudimentary pulleys. This mechanism stood apart as if it had leapt forward 1,000 years in technological evolution. Some have called it the world's first computer, a machine capable of calculations so complex that it would not be rivaled until the great astronomical clocks of the Renaissance, or even the beginnings of modern computing. But the question remains, who made it, and how? The mind of an ancient engineer. Through careful study, researchers discovered that the Antikythera mechanism was an astronomical device, a machine capable of predicting the movements of the sun, the moon, and even eclipses with remarkable accuracy. It could track the cycles of planets, the timing of ancient Olympic games, and the phases of the moon, all with a series of tiny gears turned by a simple hand crank. This was no crude invention. This was sophisticated engineering, requiring not only deep knowledge of mathematics and astronomy, but also metalworking skills far beyond what history tells us existed in the 1st or 2nd century BCE. The gear teeth were cut with a precision that would challenge even skilled medieval craftsmen 1,000 years later. And yet, according to everything we know, no other machine of this complexity existed for centuries after the Antikythera mechanism sank beneath the waves. It appeared as if a single spark of advanced technology flared briefly in the ancient world, and then vanished without a trace. Who was the mind behind this impossible creation? Some suspect it was the work of followers of Archimedes, the legendary inventor and mathematician of Syracuse. Others point to Hipparchus, the great astronomer whose models of planetary motion seem embedded in the device's calculations. But there is no name, no signature, no other example. Only one broken machine, recovered by chance from the bottom of the sea. A lost legacy or a forgotten science? The Antikythera mechanism raises an unsettling question. Was it a one-of-a-kind wonder, a singular masterpiece by a lone genius? Or was it part of a broader, advanced technological knowledge that has been entirely lost to time? If such devices were once known, why have none survived? Did they exist only in secret circles of scholars, hidden from history? Were they destroyed in wars, burned in the fires that consumed the Library of Alexandria, erased by time and the fragility of bronze? Or, more mysteriously still, was the Antikythera mechanism not just a tool of ancient science, but something more, a fragment of knowledge given to humanity from a source we do not understand. Some have speculated, in whispers, that its complexity is almost unnatural for its era, as if it came from elsewhere, as if human hands built it under guidance not entirely their own. The impossible precision. Modern reconstructions of the device have shown just how advanced it truly was. The mechanism could model the irregular orbit of the moon, a phenomenon that wouldn't be fully understood until Johannes Kepler's laws of planetary motion in the 17th century. It could predict solar and lunar eclipses decades in advance, using gears no larger than a fingernail, each tooth cut with mathematical perfection. Even today, watchmakers and engineers marvel at its design. It is not a toy, not an experiment, but a fully realized machine. Small enough to be portable, durable enough to last decades of use, accurate enough to map the heavens. It was, in every sense, a mechanical miracle, but it should not have been possible. Our historical timeline says this level of mechanical engineering belonged to a future far removed from the ancient Greek world. And yet, there it was, rusting quietly on the ocean floor, proof that someone, somewhere, knew far more than we ever imagined. A glimpse into another age. Holding a replica of the Antikythera mechanism today is unsettling. The device fits in your hands like an old, well-worn book. You turn the crank, and dozens of gears begin to move in perfect harmony. Their motion silent, smooth, deliberate. The dials slowly turn, marking eclipses, tracking planets, calculating the unchanging rhythms of the cosmos. It feels alien, yet familiar, like an artifact that has slipped between ages. A reminder that history may not be a straight line of progress, but a series of forgotten peaks and hidden valleys. How many other miracles of knowledge, of science, of technology, have risen and fallen unseen, lost to war, disaster, or deliberate destruction? The Antikythera mechanism is more than just a machine. It is a whisper from a forgotten chapter of human history, proof that the ancients may have touched brilliance far beyond what we credit them for, or that we are missing pieces of our own story, scattered in the depths of the sea and the sands of time. Even now, more than a century after its discovery, experts are still deciphering its secrets. Fragments remain unread, inscriptions that may hold clues to its origin and purpose. And yet, with every revelation, the mystery only grows deeper. Was this a lone marvel or evidence of a lost era of genius? Was it human invention or knowledge passed down from something beyond ourselves? The Antikythera mechanism does not give us answers. It simply ticks silently across the ages, a machine out of time, daring us to wonder just how much we truly know about our past. Next, the curse of the tomb of Amphipolis, a secret history buried in stone. A tomb that shouldn't exist. Northern Greece is a land steeped in legend. Rolling hills hide the whispers of ancient kingdoms, battlefields where empires clashed, and ruins that stand as frozen echoes of a time long past. Yet even among these storied landscapes, there is one place that unsettles historians and archaeologists alike: the Casta Hill tomb of Amphipolis. Discovered in 2012, this colossal burial site shocked the world. Its sheer size dwarfed other known tombs of the ancient Greek world, rivaling even the grandeur of the burial mounds of kings. Measuring nearly 500 meters in circumference, with a massive stone wall encircling it and a vast network of chambers beneath, the Amphipolis tomb is a monument fit for a figure of unmatched power. But here's the mystery. No one knows who was buried inside. Ancient texts make no mention of such a grand resting place in Amphipolis. Its design, scale, and secrecy suggest it was built for someone of royal blood, someone with immense wealth and influence. Yet the name of this person or persons has been lost entirely to history. And stranger still, whispers among locals claim that whoever dared to disturb this tomb would awaken a curse that has lingered in the soil for more than 2,000 years. A discovery shrouded in fear. When archaeologists first uncovered the entrance, there was awe and hesitation. The mound was vast, sealed by giant limestone blocks, as though trying desperately to keep whatever lay inside from escaping. Legends swirled through the nearby villages, warnings passed down through generations. The tomb on the hill is not meant to be opened. It carries a shadow that clings to all who dare enter. Of course, scientists don't believe in curses. Yet even they admitted that the site felt different. Tools broke unexpectedly. Equipment malfunctioned. Workers reported feeling watched, as if the hill itself did not want them there. And then came the strange accidents. Small landslides, scaffolding collapses, a sudden illness among several workers that only fed the growing unease surrounding the excavation. As the digging went on, the feeling deepened. This was no ordinary tomb. Something about its scale, its construction, and its atmosphere suggested that the person buried here, if indeed a burial took place, was meant to command respect or fear. The guardians of the dead. The first real glimpse inside came with the removal of the entrance stones, revealing two massive statues. Twin sphinxes, their wings unfurled, staring down intruders with blank, eternal eyes. In Greek mythology, sphinxes were guardians of the underworld, beings who challenged mortals with riddles and punished those who failed. To have two such creatures guarding the entrance of a tomb was a deliberate, chilling choice. Beyond them, the floor gave way to intricate mosaics depicting scenes of the underworld. The artwork showed Hades abducting Persephone, a symbol not of peaceful rest, but of violent passage into the afterlife. Whoever built this tomb wanted it to send a message. Trespass here, and you defy the gods of death themselves. As archaeologists pushed further, they found caryatid statues, tall, solemn female figures carved from stone, standing as if they were not merely decorations, but eternal sentinels, warding off those who might disturb the chamber. It was here that the whispers of a curse began to feel more real. Every layer of the tomb seemed designed not to honor the dead, but to frighten the living. Who lies within? Speculation ran wild. Many believed the tomb belonged to Roxana, wife of Alexander the Great, and their young son Alexander IV, assassinated in the brutal power struggles following the conqueror's death. Others thought it could house one of Alexander's most loyal generals, or perhaps Hephaestion, his closest companion. Each theory came with its own mysteries. If this was truly the resting place of Alexander's family, why did no ancient historian mention a tomb of such scale? Why was it built in secret, away from the great capital cities of the time? And why does it seem so heavily fortified? Not against grave robbers, but as though it sought to contain something dark and dangerous within. The deeper archaeologists ventured, the stranger things became. Human remains were found, yes, but multiple skeletons belonging to different individuals. A woman, a man, a child, even horses. It was not a single burial, but a collection of lives laid to rest under ambiguous circumstances. Some even suggested the site could be a cenotaph, a symbolic tomb meant to honor the dead without housing their true remains. The lack of inscriptions only deepened the enigma. It was as if someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to build a monument of unparalleled grandeur, and then erased its purpose entirely. The shadow of a curse. And then, there were the stories, the ones archaeologists couldn't quite explain away. Shortly after the tomb was opened, several members of the excavation team fell mysteriously ill. Nothing life-threatening, yet the symptoms appeared suddenly and faded just as abruptly, leaving doctors puzzled. Equipment on site malfunctioned with unnerving frequency. Batteries drained rapidly. Lights flickered without reason. Local elders claimed the tomb had been sealed for good reason. That long ago, a terrible tragedy had struck Amphipolis, one that called down the wrath of the gods. To break the seal of the hill was to reopen wounds better left untouched. Some even whispered of a curse laid upon those who disturbed the resting place. A curse carried on the wind that swept down from the mound at night, chilling the bones of anyone who lingered too long near its entrance. Whether superstition or not, the aura of the tomb unsettled even hardened skeptics. Journalists who visited the site reported an almost suffocating silence, a weight in the air that made breathing feel heavy. Something about Amphipolis was wrong, as though the hill itself held memories it wanted to keep buried. A forgotten history buried alive. What makes the tomb of Amphipolis so haunting is not just its mystery, but what it represents. A lost chapter of Greek history, one that someone, long ago, went to great lengths to conceal. Why build such a grand structure in secret? Why leave it unmarked, with no names, no titles, no tributes carved in stone? Why guard it with statues of supernatural beings and seal it so thoroughly it remained hidden for over 2,000 years? Some believe the tomb was not built to honor the dead, but to trap a dangerous legacy, to bury the memory of a person or persons so controversial, so feared, that history itself tried to erase them. Others think the opposite, that this was a royal resting place of immense significance, but one deliberately hidden to protect it from desecration by enemies who sought to destroy Alexander's bloodline forever. Whichever theory holds true, the effect is the same. Amphipolis is a tomb built for eternity, shrouded in secrecy, protected by symbols of divine wrath, surrounded by whispers of misfortune and unease. It stands as a silent challenge to us, daring us to pry into a story the ancients clearly wanted left untold. And as scientists continue to study its chambers, they admit that the truth of Amphipolis may never fully come to light. The answers are locked within stone and earth, and perhaps that's exactly where they're meant to stay. Next, the forgotten tomb of Alexander the Great, a lost burial shrouded in mystery. A king without a resting place. In the annals of history, few names shine as brightly as Alexander the Great, the young king who carved an empire from Greece to India before his untimely death at just 32. His conquests reshaped the ancient world. His legend outlived empires, and yet, no one knows where his body lies. Unlike other rulers whose tombs stand as monuments to their greatness, Alexander's final resting place is lost to time, hidden under layers of secrecy, politics, and perhaps deliberate erasure. Ancient sources hint at a tomb so magnificent it rivaled the wonders of the world. Yet centuries later, it vanished, leaving behind only whispers, strange clues, and ghostly rumors of a king who never truly found peace in death. This mystery has haunted historians and explorers for over 2,000 years. Did Alexander's tomb hold unimaginable treasures? Did it conceal secrets about his life or even his death that powerful rulers wished to keep buried forever? Or has his body been moved countless times, cursed to wander even in death, as if fate refused to let the greatest conqueror the world has ever known rest? A death that shook the world. It was June of 323 BCE in Babylon when Alexander suddenly fell ill. Accounts vary. Some say fever, others poison. Some even whisper of a strange, paralyzing sickness that left his mind sharp but his body unable to move. For nearly 2 weeks, the young king hovered between life and death until his final breath stilled a world that thought him invincible. Immediately, a battle began, not for his empire, but for his body. His generals, suspicious of each other and vying for control, knew that whoever possessed Alexander's remains would wield enormous power. For in the ancient world, a king's burial site was more than a tomb. It was a symbol of divine right to rule. Legend says his body was prepared in Babylon, encased in gold and placed within a magnificent funerary cart drawn by 64 mules, destined for Macedonia, his homeland. But it never arrived. Somewhere along the way, the greatest funeral procession in history was hijacked, and with it began one of the most enduring mysteries of the ancient world: the stolen tomb. Ptolemy, one of Alexander's closest generals, seized the body as it traveled through Syria. He diverted it to Egypt, claiming that Alexander himself had wished to be buried there. Whether this was true or a political move, the body was placed in the city of Memphis and later moved to Alexandria, the shining metropolis Alexander had founded. For centuries, pilgrims, emperors, and conquerors visited his tomb. Julius Caesar, Augustus, and even later Roman emperors stood in awe before what was said to be a sarcophagus of crystal and gold, with Alexander's mummified remains preserved in honey or a golden coffin. And then, silence. By the 4th century AD, records vanish. The once famous tomb is lost to history, swallowed by shifting sands, earthquakes, rising seas, or perhaps human hands that deliberately erased it. Today, not a single confirmed trace of Alexander's burial has ever been found. Theories and ghostly clues. Over the centuries, countless theories have emerged, each more mysterious than the last. At the hidden tomb of Alexandria, some believe Alexander's tomb still lies beneath the modern city, buried under layers of stone, water, and time. But every excavation has ended in disappointment or abrupt silence, as if something or someone wants it to stay hidden. Of the tomb in Siwa Oasis, a legend says Alexander wanted to rest near the Oracle of Ammon in the Egyptian desert, where he was once hailed as a son of the gods. Some claim his body was moved there in secret, vanishing forever among shifting sands. Of the lost Macedonian burial, others suggest his remains were finally taken home to Macedonia, buried in an unmarked tomb to prevent desecration. perhaps under a mound that even now seems like just another hill. Yet no definitive evidence has ever surfaced, only rumors of sightings. A sealed chamber under Alexandria glimpsed by 19th century diggers, a golden sarcophagus supposedly spirited away during medieval wars, and ancient texts that speak of a curse on any who dare disturb the king's eternal sleep. Was it erased on purpose? Some historians suspect Alexander's tomb was deliberately erased, his remains destroyed or hidden by rulers who feared his legacy. In life, Alexander was a godlike figure, worshipped by some as divine. His tomb would have been a powerful symbol, a rallying point for rebellion or claims to empire. Roman emperors may have looted or sealed it away, Christian leaders may have buried it to suppress pagan worship, or natural disasters may have done what politics could not, erasing the most famous tomb the ancient world ever knew. And yet, there are tantalizing hints that the tomb was never empty, only kept from prying eyes. As late as the 6th century AD, Byzantine records mention a grand burial chamber in Alexandria, long since forbidden to visitors. Then its trail vanishes completely, as though it had slipped from history's grasp on purpose. A king who would not die. Legends grew around the missing tomb. Some said Alexander's body was incorruptible, never decaying, proof of his divine nature. Others believed it was spirited away by secret cults who thought he would one day return. There are ghostly tales of travelers in Alexandria hearing faint footsteps beneath their feet, of strange golden glimmers in sealed catacombs, of dreams where a young king in armor asks for his name to be remembered. Even now, archaeologists searching the Mediterranean often speak of a strange feeling in certain ruins of Egypt and Greece. A sense of something watching, waiting, a presence lingering in stone corridors and buried chambers, as though Alexander himself is still searching for a place to rest. The eternal mystery. More than 2,000 years have passed, yet the world's greatest conqueror remains without a known grave. We know where pharaohs lie entombed, where emperors rest beneath marble, but not Alexander, the man who ruled half the known world. Perhaps his tomb still lies somewhere beneath Alexandria, protected by the weight of centuries. Perhaps it is in the desert, its secrets guarded by sandstorms. Or perhaps the truth is stranger still, that the man who sought to become a god never truly died. His body and spirit carried away into legend, leaving the world forever searching. And so, the question lingers like an echo through time. Where does the greatest king who ever lived truly sleep? Next, the lost labyrinth of Crete, a maze that shouldn't exist, a myth that refuses to stay myth. For thousands of years, the story of the labyrinth of Crete has fascinated and unsettled those who hear it. It is said to have been an enormous maze, built by the legendary craftsman Delos at the command of King Minos. Deep within this maze lived the Minotaur, a creature half man, half bull, locked away in twisting corridors where no mortal could escape without a guide. The myth is well known. Heroes like Theseus ventured into the maze to slay the beast. Ariadne's thread, the spool of string that led him out again, has become a timeless symbol of finding one's way through confusion and darkness. But what if this was not just a story? Across Crete, beneath hills and ruins, there are traces of something vast and unnatural. An underground structure of staggering complexity, tunnels that shouldn't exist, chambers that defy explanation. For centuries, locals have whispered that the labyrinth is real, not merely a myth, and that it is still out there waiting. The palace that was more than a palace. Archaeologists long believed that the Palace of Knossos, the sprawling ruins unearthed in the early 20th century, inspired the legend of the labyrinth. Its hundreds of rooms, confusing corridors, and multi-level construction could have given rise to tales of a maze no man could escape. But here's where the mystery deepens. Beneath Knossos, researchers have found sealed passageways and signs of even older structures below the known ruins. There are maps, drawn by early explorers, that chart tunnels leading into darkness, only to stop abruptly where the earth seems to swallow itself. Some of these subterranean paths stretch for miles. Others end at strange dead ends, walls carved smooth as if deliberately closed off. And in a few rare cases, underground chambers have been found with odd, claw-like scratches on the walls, as though something had once tried to claw its way out. Some explorers claim to have found bones of enormous bulls, far larger than any species known to have lived on the island. Others speak of claw marks, not just on walls but on ceilings, as though something massive once roamed the tunnels freely. Ancient Greek myths describe the Minotaur as a creature created from a curse, trapped because it was too dangerous to live among men. While this might have been a symbolic story, the archaeological evidence suggests something once lived in these tunnels, something not quite human, not quite animal. Were the myths exaggerations of a real beast kept in underground cages? Or were they warnings, preserving memories of encounters with a now-forgotten creature from humanity's distant past? Lost technology and impossible construction. What confounds researchers most is how the labyrinth could have been built. Some tunnels show precision cutting that modern engineers say would have been impossible with Bronze Age tools. The angles are perfect, the walls are polished in places, and certain chambers create acoustic effects, amplifying footsteps or producing strange low hums when you speak. Some speculate that the labyrinth is older than the Minoan civilization, built by an unknown people long before King Minos. The Minoans may have simply discovered and repurposed it, weaving it into their myths to explain what they couldn't understand. This theory aligns with other ancient mysteries across the world. Structures far older than their supposed builders, constructed with skills lost to time. The labyrinth may have been a relic of a forgotten age, a maze meant for purposes we cannot fathom, ritual, imprisonment, or something darker. The missing heart of the maze. For centuries, adventurers have searched for the center of the labyrinth, where legend says the Minotaur dwelled. But the supposed maze seems to shift, as if it resists being fully mapped. Tunnels collapse unexpectedly. New openings appear where none existed before. And the deeper explorers go, the stranger things become. One chilling account from the 19th century tells of a team of 3 men who descended into one of the known labyrinth entrances with oil lamps and ropes. They were supposed to return by dawn. Only one man came back, days later. His hair turned white, rambling incoherently about shadows with horns and endless corridors where the walls breathed. Whether this is folklore or truth, it adds to the eerie sense that something in the labyrinth doesn't want to be found, that the heart of the maze is not meant for human eyes, or perhaps that it is alive in some way we don't understand. A maze that shouldn't exist. Despite centuries of searching, no one has mapped the labyrinth of Crete completely. Modern surveys with ground-penetrating radar show anomalies beneath the earth, vast cavities where no natural cave systems should be. Some researchers believe the labyrinth extends far deeper than anyone imagines, possibly connecting to the sea, with underwater chambers never explored. Others think it crosses dimensions, a mythic idea that the maze is a place where reality folds on itself, making escape nearly impossible. Whatever its origin, the labyrinth of Crete defies explanation. Was it a prison for a monster? A ritual maze for forgotten gods? Or an ancient construction that humanity stumbled upon and misunderstood, turning it into legend? Even today, standing near the rumored entrances, you can feel the air change, cool drafts rising from darkness below, carrying the scent of earth that hasn't seen sunlight in thousands of years. Some say, if you stand very still, you can hear faint footsteps echoing from the depths. Next, the cursed island of Delos, a forbidden land the gods tried to bury. The island that shouldn't exist. In the vast blue heart of the Aegean Sea lies a barren, windswept island, a lonely patch of rock that hides more secrets than its size suggests. This is Delos, a place once worshipped as the birthplace of gods, yet later feared, abandoned, and shunned as if cursed by divine hands. Legends say Delos wasn't always there. In the earliest days before man measured time, the island floated freely over the waters, untethered, hidden from mortal eyes. The gods themselves chose its destiny, pulling it from the depths of the sea, anchoring it in place, and declaring it a sacred realm. But what was so powerful, so dangerous, about this tiny island that even the gods seemed determined to bury it in myth and shadow? A sanctuary of divine birth. Greek myth tells us that Leto, lover of Zeus, was pursued relentlessly by the wrathful goddess Hera, who forbade her from giving birth on any solid land. Desperate and wandering, Leto found only rejection, until Delos rose from the waves to give her refuge. Here, she bore the divine twins Apollo and Artemis, who would one day become gods of prophecy, music, the hunt, and the moon itself. The island was declared sacred, a holy place no mortal could pollute with bloodshed or death. But as centuries passed, Delos became more than a sanctuary. It turned into a center of wealth, trade, and mystery, where pilgrims came to honor the gods and where rulers fought to control its influence. And with this rising power came whispers of a curse, a shadow said to linger over anyone who disturbed the gods' resting ground. The strange law of deathless soil. One of the most haunting mysteries of Delos lies in an ancient decree. No one was allowed to be born or to die on the island. Historians record how Athenians, in a ritual known as purification, dug up every grave and removed every corpse from Delos, ferrying the dead to a nearby island. Expectant mothers were forced to leave well before labor, while the dying were taken away to meet their end elsewhere. Why would a sacred birthplace ban both life and death? Some say it was to keep the island eternally pure, untouched by mortal frailty. Others whisper that something darker lurked beneath the soil. A curse, a divine command, or perhaps an energy the gods feared would awaken if life and death were allowed to take root there. Even now, Delos feels eerily lifeless, a silence heavy on the wind, as if the land itself rejects mortality. The forgotten cataclysm. Legends speak of a catastrophe that struck Delos long after its golden age, a time when its temples crumbled, its markets emptied, and its people vanished almost overnight. Some blame war and plunder, but local myth paints a stranger picture. The gods themselves turned their backs on Delos. The island, they say, had become too crowded, too polluted with greed, and so the divine protectors unleashed famine, sickness, and storms, driving mortals away. Others claim a great wave, a seaborne terror, once swallowed parts of the island, as though the ocean tried to reclaim what the gods had once forced above its surface. To this day, divers claim to see sunken ruins just beyond the coastline, half buried in silt, untouched by time. What could have caused such destruction? A natural disaster? Or the hand of the gods correcting a cosmic mistake? Whispers of forbidden rituals. Archaeologists digging through Delos have unearthed odd artifacts. Altars scorched black by unknown fire, strange carvings that do not match Greek styles, and bones buried in patterns not seen elsewhere in the Aegean. Though Delos was meant to be pure, some believe secret rites were performed under cover of darkness. Ceremonies calling on forces older than the Olympians, perhaps the ancient sea gods who once ruled before Zeus himself. Local myths speak of a curse that fell upon those who desecrated the sacred island. Their ships wrecked at sea, their bloodlines ending in tragedy. Even Roman conquerors treated Delos with a wary hand, building over the ruins but never fully claiming it. Something about the island seemed to reject conquest, as if it was not meant to belong to mortals at all. The ghost island today. Delos is now uninhabited, a forbidden land under Greek law where no one may live permanently. Tourists may visit by day, but at night the island is empty, save for ruins, owls, and the whisper of waves against stone. Those who have camped there illegally report strange phenomena. Lights flickering among broken temples with no source. Distant singing in a language no one recognizes. A sense of being watched from the shadows of fallen statues. A sudden chills, even on warm summer nights, as if an unseen presence walks the island still. Fishermen in nearby waters avoid sailing too close after dark, fearing phantom ships said to circle the island, relics of its cursed past. The island the gods tried to erase. Despite its divine connection, Delos feels like a place deliberately hidden from history's memory. A holy birthplace abandoned, a thriving city erased, a land where even death is forbidden. Why did the gods allow Delos to rise only to see it fall? Was it truly a gift to Leto, or was it a prison, a sealed place for forces beyond mortal comprehension? And why, even now, does it feel as though the island does not want to be touched, as though some divine hand is still trying to bury it beneath time and sea? Delos stands as a haunting paradox, an island of beginnings where nothing may begin or end, a holy sanctuary cursed by the very gods who created it, a place that reminds us that not all sacred lands were meant for human footsteps. Next, the eternal flame of Hephaestus, or a fire that never died. The forgotten fires of a god. In the heart of ancient Greece, stories whispered of a fire that never dimmed, a flame said to burn with the breath of a god. This was no ordinary fire. It was the eternal flame of Hephaestus, a mysterious blaze that legend claimed could not be extinguished by wind, water, or time itself. Hephaestus, the god of fire, forge, and divine craftsmanship, was believed to have kindled this flame in the earliest days of the world. It was said to be a fragment of the primordial fire that gave life to creation, a blaze stolen from the stars and gifted to the earth. Some myths claim it burned deep within the caves of Lemnos, Hephaestus's sacred island, while others say it flickered at the very heart of Mount Etna, guarded by divine smiths and forgotten giants. But where did this flame truly lie, and why do fragments of this tale persist across thousands of years, as though somewhere it might still burn? The temple that held the impossible fire. Ancient texts tell of a temple in Athens, dedicated to Hephaestus, where a fire was kept alight day and night, never needing fuel, never waning. Pilgrims described its strange light, not orange and red like mortal flames, but a shifting blue-gold glow, as if the very essence of creation burned before their eyes. Some claimed the flame was fed by no earthly oil but drew its life from the breath of the god himself, a tether between Olympus and man's world. Others whispered that the fire burned on air alone, refusing to die, even when priests doused it with water to test its divinity. Even today, archaeologists studying ancient temple ruins report unusual scorch marks, strange mineral deposits, and burn patterns that defy logic, signs of a flame hotter than any wood or oil fire, something closer to a plasma-like brilliance. Was this legend mere symbolism, or a memory of a forgotten, divine technology? The fire that forged wonders. Myths say that in the time before time, Hephaestus worked his forge beside this eternal flame, shaping weapons for gods and mortals alike. The shield of Achilles, the chariot of Helios, the chains that bound Prometheus, all were said to have been forged with this fire that could bend reality itself. Some philosophers speculated that this flame wasn't ordinary combustion at all, but a force beyond mortal science, a pure energy source that allowed gods to create indestructible metals and enchanted objects. If such a fire existed, could it have been hidden technology, something far advanced, mistaken for divine magic in the eyes of the ancients? There are even fragments of text from early alchemists hinting that a living fire once existed, a substance or energy that consumed nothing yet burned eternally, impossible to replicate. The vanishing of the flame. As Greece's golden age faded, so too did the whispers of the eternal flame. Temples crumbled, wars raged, and the divine forge fell silent. Some say the flame was stolen, taken to a faraway land and hidden beneath sacred vaults where it still burns, waiting to be rediscovered. Others claim the gods themselves withdrew it from earth, fearful of what mortals might do with such power if it fell into human hands. Legends suggest that a few ancient blacksmiths tried to harness its essence, only to vanish in blinding light, as though consumed by a fire that was not meant for mortal touch. And yet, in remote places, there are persistent tales of flames that never die. Lamps burning for centuries in forgotten tombs, temple fires rekindled without fuel, strange blue lights flickering in caves where no torch has been lit for ages. Could these be fragments of Hephaestus's gift, remnants of the eternal blaze scattered across time? Modern mysteries of the never-dying fire. In some abandoned Greek sanctuaries, archaeologists have found lamps sealed for thousands of years that still bore blackened wicks, as if they had once burned without fuel for untold centuries. Ancient texts even mention holy fires that burned in the wind and rain, refusing to be extinguished. One particular site on Lemnos reveals scorched stone that scientists cannot explain, marks of heat far beyond what a wood fire could create, yet with no signs of a volcano or lightning strike. Some modern researchers wonder if the ancients had discovered a form of chemical or natural perpetual flame, lost to time, or if the myths of Hephaestus were a way to record encounters with unknown, perhaps otherworldly technology, a power source mistaken for divine fire. The flame in our memory. Whether divine miracle or forgotten science, the eternal flame of Hephaestus endures as a story of wonder, a symbol of creation's first spark, the fire that gave gods and men the power to shape their world. It's said that the flame still exists, hidden in a secret cavern beneath the Aegean, guarded by the last remnants of a forgotten order sworn to protect it. Others claim it flickers only in the dreams of visionaries, a guiding light for those destined to create something immortal. And perhaps that's why this story never dies, because somewhere, deep inside, we all remember a time when the world was new, when the fires of heaven burned on earth, and when the line between divine and human creation blurred in the light of an eternal, impossible flame.